Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Paola. She is a spiritual mentor and life coach. So let's welcome Paola. She's a down-to-earth force behind the Fearless Female movement. As the founder and CEO, she is driven by a mission to the change of chains of fear and imposed by old ideologies and subconscious mind. So she also employs a unique blend of coaching and subconscious healing, which we will talk about today, that helps women overcome their past challenges and embrace their inner power. So this is with emotional body code as her compass. She also leads women on the healing journey and enabling them to engage in fearless archaeologies of their destinies. Welcome. So happy to have you here today.
Oh, I'm excited. Sorry that there were so many big words.
I know. I'm like, Joey, I was like, Joey, take this out.
But yes, I started the Fearless Female movement back in 2017, 18. How this whole thing started was I live in Orange County, Southern California, and there's so many people here that they just stay surface level. You know, they talk about their purse or what the weather's like or how their kid is doing in soccer. And I'm the type of person that's like, let's get into like what makes you tick, you know, let's talk about your trauma. Where were you hurt? Because I have a lot of trauma and I have been working on my own childhood trauma and wounds since 2006. So let me tell you a little bit about how I grew up. I am number 7 for my mother. And so by the time I was born, my mom was kind of annoyed at having children. And she would tell me to my face, I never really wanted you. And so then her not only telling me that, but also being physically abusive. So whenever I cried or anything, she would smack me, pull my hair. It was just like I was just irritating her all the time. And so when a child is physically and emotionally and verbally abused, the child doesn't look at their caregiver as, what is wrong with you? No, the child looks within themselves and says, what is wrong with me? And so I had a sister who was a year and a half older than me. And she was beautiful and smart and funny and gregarious, and she got all the attention. I always tried to emulate her and copy her, and then I would never like stand out as much as her, and so then I would be made fun of that by my siblings, and then I would run to my mom for comfort, and then she would laugh at me or smack me and say, "Well, that's what you get." And stop trying to be someone else. And so I was just so confused as a child. And I really thought there was something inherently wrong with me. And so all of these experiences caused me to have a lot of emotional and trauma. And I created what I call my negative record. And in the negative record, I would simply say to myself, hold on. My negative record would say, I am unlovable. I am not good enough. I am unwanted. I'm not worthy. And that record would play every single time something happened to me in my life. So even though I was in this toxic environment growing up, like my idea was like, oh, as soon as I get to college, it's all going to end. And then I'm going to have free autonomy to do whatever I want. And I'm not going to have to be in this negative environment anymore. But when I got to college, the thing is that I am still me. So I still have that record playing in the back of my mind. So anytime I failed a class, anytime a boy rejected me, anytime a friend betrayed me, that record would play, and I would get into these deep depressive episodes. And my coping mechanism was alcohol. My dad was an alcoholic, and he actually passed from alcoholism. And even though as a child, my dad wasn't like, when you get upset, drink this, it'll make you feel better. Children learn by watching and observing. So, sometimes you think like, how the hell did my child say the F word? I've never said the F word or whatever. They're probably watching a YouTube show, or they probably heard their uncle say it, and maybe they repeated it and the uncle laughed or whatever. Children are sponges. We learn how to move through the world by how our caregivers not only treated us, but also by just observing our caregivers. Like, how do they handle anger? How do they handle love? How do they handle conflict? Like, we learn by observation and absorbing and being in front of our caregivers. So um, I learned now through Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I think his name's Bruce Lipton. I forgot his last name. Bruce. Anyways, I've learned through those two doctors that the first 7 years of your life, you are just a computer getting a program that's being downloaded. So you're just downloading all this information. Okay, so when I get angry, I need to do this. When I'm pissed off, I need to do this. When I hurt, I need to drink. And so that was the record that was in my brain. So I drank a lot, to the point of blacking out in my college years. I, dabbled in drugs. Thank God I don't have addictive personality, so I never really got addicted to any of these things. But I was always using all these different things to cope. And I was trying to take away what I felt in my heart, which I didn't know was anxiety until later on in my life. Like, I just felt like my heart was being compressed into my chest, and I didn't understand this feeling. It wasn't until later in my 20s that someone called it anxiety, and I was like, oh, so that's what that feeling is. And I've had that feeling since I was a child. I always called it I was walking on eggshells, because I didn't know how my mother was going to be that day. I didn't know if she was going to be angry, if she was going to be happy, if she was going to take it out on me, if she was going to take it out on my sister or my brother or my dad, like, or if my mom and my dad were going to fight, or if my brother and my mom were going to fight. Like, I never knew the environment I was walking or waking up to. So that feeling of anxiety was always in my heart. And anytime I messed up, I would play that record. And there's three different types of abuse. There's physical. There's physical, which involves sexual too. So being hit, being beaten, also sexual abuse. There's also emotional abuse, and then there's neglect. And there's been studies shown that neglect is the worst of all three. And one of the prime things that my mom would do is that if I did something wrong, or if I pissed her off, she would neglect me or not speak to me for months, sometimes years, in my own home. So that environment, my home was very toxic. It was very just tumultuous. I always felt like there was something inherently wrong with me, and I couldn't do anything right, which then created this perfectionist kind of personality in me where, oh my God, if I was like the lead in the school play, or if I got straight A's, or if I was the cheerleader, or if I was on ASB, which all of those I was on honor roll. I was the first to graduate from high school to college without getting pregnant in between. It was never enough. And for a long time, 20 years of my life, I was in this state of bitterness, anger, hurt. Anytime something happened to me in my life, whether I lost a job, or a friend betrayed me, or a boyfriend cheated on me, that record would play. Well, of course, this is happening to you, Paola. You're not good enough. You're unwanted. You're never enough. And so that record would play over and over. And eventually, obviously, I got more and more things on that record, like you're too fat, you're too ugly, your hair, your skin, all these different things. And I would just add it to this negative record. And it wasn't until my dad passed away in 2006. And I went to this deep depression. That year was the worst year of my life, because not only did my dad pass away, but I got out of a toxic relationship where my ex-boyfriend was not only emotionally abusive, but physically abusive. So if you start to learn the things that you do, you start to repeat the patterns. And I wasn't aware that I was repeating the patterns by getting into even more toxic relationships, because that's what I thought love was. So if you remember earlier in the conversation, I said kids learn by observing. My mom didn't tell me, okay, this is love, but I did watch my mom and dad physically fight. Not, my dad never laid a hand on her. She would lay a hand on him, but that's what I witnessed. And so then when I got into relationships, I was like, well, this is normal. You know, him hitting me is normal. Like us arguing is normal. Like us, treating each other like shit is normal. This is love, right? And so it wasn't until we broke up, and how we broke up was because um, somebody had walked into, one of my friends walked into the room right as he was about to like lay his hands on me. And the look on her face was as if I was in my own Lifetime movie. And I was like, oh my God, I'm that girl. The girl that I scream at on TV and say, get out. Why are you with him? Blah, blah, blah. I was that girl. And so I remember that January of 2006, I packed up all my bags because we lived together, and I left him. And when I left him, I was like, after a week or two, I was like, I want him back. Because again, I didn't know what love was. And so I went to his mom to try to ask for her to get him to come back to me. And she was like, oh my God, I told her mom or his mom, everything that he had done to me in the 2 years that we were together, that he would hit me, that he would push me up against the wall, that he'd hit my head against the floor, that he would leave for weekends and turn off his phone and I wouldn't know where he was, that he would steal money from our joint account and go gambling. And she's sitting there on the couch, and first of all, she didn't know we had broken up. Second of all, she's just crying as I was describing this to her, and she said, he turned into his dad. She was like, I can't believe he turned into his dad. And she was like, do you know why me and his dad divorced? And I said, no. And she said, well, because she's a nurse. She's like, well, his father would do the same thing, leave me for weekends at a time, turn off his phone. And then one day I got something in the mail saying that someone withdrew $40,000 out of my 401k, that I've been working diligently to put money aside. And when I confronted him, he said, well, I was going to double it, because he was going to the tables too. He was gambling at the casinos with her $40,000 401k. And she's like, and that was my last straw. And I left him. And she was like, even as you're telling me how he pushes you up against the wall, that's what his dad would do. And that was my first aha moment, where it was like, wow, we repeat patterns. We repeat the same thing. And so that day I told her, you know what? Remember, I came here to say, please get him back with me. I changed my mind. Don't tell him I came to visit you. I'm going to grab my shit. I'm leaving. And so I left. I packed all my bags, and I left, broke the lease. And then 2 months later, my father passes away unexpectedly from liver failure. And my whole world crumbled inside. And I never felt the grief of like, I've never felt that, the grief, like it's like 10 times fold of someone breaking up with you. And I couldn't stand the pain. I didn't know what to do. I went to my very first therapy session, and I'm sitting there on the couch and I'm crying. I'm telling her all about like my mom being abusive and my siblings making fun of me and never having a supportive environment, and my ex-boyfriend laying his hands on me and my dad dying. And she's just looking at me and she's like, so? And I'm like, did you not just hear what I just said? And she was like, well, you're not a prostitute. You're not shooting yourself up with drugs. You're not blacked out drunk. You're not in debt. You have a car. You're going to college. You have like the right to change your life right now. She's like, you could literally change your life right now and just live a whole new life. And I was like, this woman, she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Like, and I left there feeling so just like unheard, unvalidated, unseen. And I remember I went to another doctor and I just wanted to get on antidepressants. And I remember my best friend, who was an LVN at the time, she was like, Paola, once you take these antidepressants, it'll change your brain chemistry forever. Like, she's like, I don't think you should take these. She's like, you need to do something else to cure your, like that feeling of anxiety. And so I started running. And so what I did was I would run 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. Eventually I was running like half marathons and stuff. But by that time I had moved out of the town that I grew up in, the town that I had all these memories with my ex-boyfriend, and I moved towards the beach. I had no friends. I had no job. And it took me a while to like get my life in order. But I remember those dark nights of the soul of just bawling my eyes out because here I was at the location that I wanted to be in, the beach, but I was just gutted. I was devastated. I was alone. I had no friends. And I would literally tell God, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Is this what life is? To feel this gutted, this like I felt like nothing. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When you start asking those existential questions of what is my purpose? Why am I here? You're going to be surprised at the answers you're going to get. I mean, obviously the clouds didn't part and God didn't come down and say, this is what you're supposed to do, Pay. Um, you get the answers. And if you're open to the answers, you will see them. You know, I started getting a lot of angel numbers. I started getting a lot of signs. I would listen to podcasts and something would spur me to listen to something else. I would get people handing me books. And the first book that someone handed me was the book, The Secret. And I remember when I first read The Secret, I thought this can't possibly work for me. I'm Mexican. You know, yes, that shit works for white people. I'm Mexican. It's not going to work for me. And I know everybody laughs when I say that, but like, again, in my bio, it's like I'm breaking the ideologies that I grew up with. And my ideology, which I was taught, white people are up here, Mexican people are down here. Mexican people work for white people. We will never be equal to white people. And so that's what I was taught and raised. And not only was I taught that, I saw it. I saw, because my parents were from Mexico. I'm first generation American. I saw how people treated my parents who didn't speak English. I saw how people treated my siblings who had broken English, you know, or had an accent. And so I saw the that growing up. And so then I believed it. I was like, okay, this is that, compute, program, downloaded, understood, And so when I read that book, I was like, this shit probably only works for white people. It definitely doesn't work for me. But I'm a researcher. I've done my human design now. I know that I'm a researcher. So I was like, I'm going to put this shit to the test. If they say, because this is like, I mean, for me, the book, The Secret was mind blowing. I was like, you mean to tell me that my thoughts create my reality? And as I was like reading the book and I was analyzing my thoughts, I was like, well, that's why my life is so fucked up
Yeah.
because my thoughts are I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm unlovable, nobody wants to be around me, you know. So I was creating all these toxic relationships with friends and family members and boyfriends and coworkers and bosses because that was the record I was playing. So I was like, okay, if this works, let me try it. Let me just try it, And a couple of the examples in the book, The Secret, and if you're watching this or listening to this, the book, The Secret, is free on YouTube and it's free on Netflix. So
Go into it. It was
you,
actually it's funny you're saying that because it's literally the first book that I was like, there's no fucking way this shit works. And I was like,
yes.
6 years ago, I was like, I am a researcher as well. And I was like, holy shit. What I'm telling myself, like you said, I'm telling myself all of the same things that you used to tell yourself too. And it's like, wow, I stopped telling myself that. Obviously came with a lot of healing too. It doesn't just happen. You can't just
Mm-hmm.
yourself believe these things. It doesn't happen like that. I mean, it would be nice if it actually happened like that. There's a process to that, but
Yeah.
it's actually an amazing book. If you
Yes.
haven't read it, you need to read
Yeah.
it.
And in the book, it gives you an example to test it out. Like focus on visualizing and seeing the first parking spot at Target or your local Walmart, whatever. So I would do that. And I remember I would pull up in my car and I would be like, doesn't work. There's no freaking parking spots. And then just as I would say that, somebody would get out of the first parking spot and I would be able to park there. And I was like, no way. Okay, I'm going to test it again. And I would do it over and over and over. And I have to tell you that I did manifest a new boyfriend, new friends, a new job. But because I was still playing that negative record in the back of my mind, My boyfriend was toxic, my friends were toxic, and my boss was toxic. And so was that work environment. And so I still, even though I got the book The Secret, I really didn't take a full deep dive into self-help until 2013. So from 2006 to 2013, I was what I call half-assing manifesting, because I was doing the work, but in the back of my subconscious mind, I was playing that negative record every single time something negative would happen to me. I got a flat tire in the car. I got laid off. My friend, slept with my boyfriend, like record play, record play, record play. And I didn't even understand the importance of our subconscious mind. I didn't understand it. So it wasn't until 2013 where I took a full deep dive into self-help, because 2013 was when I got out of my last toxic relationship. I was with this guy who I met on Plenty of Fish, and we dated for 6 months. And in those 6 months, this man called me a wetback, called me a cunt, and then finally laid his hands on me when I caught him cheating on me. And when I caught him cheating on me, he was choking me on the side of a restaurant. And that was like my aha moment where I was like, how the fuck? Sorry if I can't cuss, but
Oh, no, you
how
can.
the fuck did I get here again? How am I here yet again with this man who makes $13 an hour and his hands are around my neck? I have a college degree. I make $90,000 a year. I live by the beach, and I'm the one being choked out by the side of a restaurant. And I just had this aha moment where I was like, I'm doing it all wrong. This just doesn't make any sense. Like, I've done the therapy. I read the books about narcissistic behavior. Like, I read the book, The Secret. I manifested this guy. Like, I don't understand. So for an entire year after that incident, I couldn't trust myself. I had some of the darkest nights of the soul in that year. I stopped drinking alcohol. I was going to church because that was like my first ideology, like God is everything, go to church. I was raised Catholic, turned Christian. I rebaptized myself. I said the Lord's Prayer 10 times, every single time with different dialects, hoping that like I would actually feel the Holy Spirit in my heart. Never felt it. And I was going to church 3 times a week: Mondays for women's Bible studies, Wednesdays for singles Bible study, Saturdays I was doing children ministry. I mean, I was in there. Like, I was trying really hard to fix me, and nothing was working. And then finally one day I was sitting out on a Sunday, because I wasn't drinking anymore, so nobody was inviting me anywhere. And usually Sunday Fun Day was a big thing where I lived in Costa Mesa, next to Newport Beach. It was a big thing. So I stopped getting invited because I kept telling my friends, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not drinking anymore. So Sundays for me were church and then come home and sit in my recliner. I lived in a small studio apartment, and my recliner was my only couch. So I was sitting there watching Super Soul Sunday. This was when Oprah started Super Soul Sunday. And I was listening and watching every person: Jack Canfield, Gabrielle Bernstein, Tony Robbins, Michael Bernard Beckwith. And I was like, these people are speaking to my soul. I remember like looking for a journal and like rewinding and pausing and writing everything down that they said. I would get their books and I would read them. And then I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me there's so much more than just The Secret. There's so much more to like your subconscious mind and all these things. And so I really started to like do more work. And during that time, I ended up paying off my debt, because my debt caused me a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. It made me feel less worthy. I felt stupid because I had gotten into all this debt. So that year, not only was I alcohol free and I took a deep dive into self-help, but I also paid off $18,600 worth of credit card debt. And then my life kind of like, and during this time, I'm like sitting there just like still having these dark nights of the soul, because like she said, you don't just read one book and poof, everything changes, your life is great. No, it is like a wild roller coaster of uncovering so much trauma, years and years and years of trauma. And so one night it was a rainy day, and I just remember bawling my eyes out as I was washing my one dish in my small studio apartment and just at the sink crying, like just this desperate cry and asking God, like, I don't understand. Why does everyone else seem like they have it right? And I just can't figure it out. Like everyone else has a boyfriend or a husband or a child or a mortgage or a house or the best career. And I am sitting here. And at that time, I was unemployed. I had, a debt still that I was working on paying off. I had no friends because they all stopped talking to me because I wasn't drinking anymore. I was single. And I was like, it just hurts so bad. I don't want to be here anymore. I literally was contemplating on unaliving myself. And I was like, okay, I can't go anywhere tomorrow because the moment you step out of the door, you spend money. And I'm like, and I can't because I'm unemployed. And so I remember taking a lot of NyQuil that night just to sleep, not only sleep the night away, but I was hoping to sleep the day away so that I wouldn't leave my studio apartment and spend money. That night, I had the most wild dream. And I still to this day believe from the bottom of my soul that this actually happened and it wasn't a dream. I had a small studio apartment, so the bed faced the front door. And I cried myself to sleep, and in my dream, my front door opened and a beautiful white billowing light came through the front door. And my dad walked in, perfect, perfectly healthy, like all of his teeth. Like when my dad passed away, he had no teeth. He was so skinny. He was bones on skin, but he was perfect. And I remember jumping like out of the bed and saying, Papi, papi, quiero ir contigo. I want to go with you. I don't want to be here anymore. And I just gave him this big hug and I was holding him and it felt so real. And he was like, it's not your time. No es tu tiempo. It's not your time. And I said, I can't do this anymore. It hurts too much. And he said, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And just in that moment, he disappeared. The light was gone. And I just like woke up like I was trying to catch my breath. And I kid you not, Lauren, within the next 3 months, I got a job, I got a new apartment, and I met my husband. And my whole life went from living in a small studio apartment, driving a little shitty Honda Civic that had the front bumper dragging as I drove down the street, having like one plate, two spoons, one fork. I don't even remember now, to marrying a man who's a multi-millionaire successful man. And now, like, I had the wedding of my dreams. For my wedding present, he got me a Range Rover, which was on my my vision board for years. Like we got to go to Bora Bora for our honeymoon. Like I was like, who, like, and every single time all these amazing things happened to me, I was like, how? I would just literally cry in gratitude because I'm like, everything that The Secret says is the truth. Like I had the Range Rover on my vision board. I had Bora Bora on my vision board. I had pictures of people loving each other on my vision board. I had all these places that I wanted to go to. I wanted to hold a koala. My husband bought us business class tickets to go to Australia, and I held a koala on my 40th birthday. Like if you were to tell Paola, who was laying in that bed drinking NyQuil, that just wait, it's coming, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have never believed you. Now, yes, all these things, amazingly things happened to me, but I started to realize that even though my husband loved me and, cared for me and gave me all my dreams, it took me the first year of our marriage. I had to go to therapy once a week because I couldn't understand the unconditional love. I never received it from my mom. I never received it from my dad. I didn't receive it from my siblings, from my friends, from anybody. And so I gave my ring back to my husband, I'd have to say over 50 times. Like, I'm not going to do this because my fight or flight was activated. It was like, wait a minute, nope, I'm leaving. I can't handle this, blah, blah, blah. This is too much. You can't possibly love me. I am damaged. I am broken. Like, you can't possibly love this. And so it took me so much, because the good thing about my husband being so successful is that I didn't have to work. And so I went down my healing path. Not only did I go to therapy, but I tried all these other healing modalities. I did tuning forks. I met with shamans. I did float tanks. I did acupuncture. I did Reiki. Honey, you tell me, I'm going to get my Akashic records looked at. Sign me up. Human design, sign me up. I was like, what's my birth chart? Sign me up. Like, I was trying to figure out
Yeah.
what was wrong with me, because my ideology was, you are unwanted. You are not good enough. You are unworthy. You don't deserve this. So even though I'm at the frickin' Ritz-Carlton on one of my trips to Kauai and I'm riding helicopters, there was something in the back of my mind waiting for the other shoe to drop, because I was thinking, there's no way that I, who is damaged and broken, deserve this. So at one moment, he's either going to hit me, cheat on me, break my heart, and this is all going to be over. I mean, I'm happy to report that we're still married. He's still making my dreams come true, and he's so loving and kind and patient with me. But I started one day, we were on our way to Nashville, and, like I said, I was trying all these different healing modalities. Some worked, some were great, some didn't work for me. And one day I was, flying to Nashville with my husband, and he's like, you've got to read this book. It's called The Emotion Code. And I was like, yeah, but I'm listening to this podcast. And he's like, no. Like, this is right up your alley. Like, this is what you need to read. And by this time, I was already coaching. I'd already started the Fearless Female Movement. I already had a podcast. But I was noticing too that, like, even though I was helping my clients like change their lives and manifest and do all these things, that they too would somehow go back to that record or their comfort zone or those feelings of not feeling worthy, deserving, or good enough. So here I am, I'm reading this book, The Emotion Code, and it makes total sense. So the Emotion Code is created by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and he's a chiropractor. So what happened with him is that he would make people's adjustments, and people would still complain about pain in their shoulder and their lower back and their neck. They would have headaches, all these different things. And he's like, but I've already adjusted you, and I've already x-rayed you, and I don't understand. Like, I've given you all the supplements, and you're drinking enough water, and your blood work came back good. Like, I'm not understanding. And he's very inquisitive. So he started to like work with all these different things. And then he realized that by using magnets in your meridian from the top to the back of your head, you can release negative emotions that have been trapped in your body. So what emotion and body code is basically correcting your subconscious mind. So your subconscious mind is like a record keeper of the past. It remembers every experience that you've ever had in your lifetime and the emotion attached to it. So it could be as big as being choked outside of a restaurant by your ex-boyfriend because you caught him cheating, or it could be as a girl in your school called you fat and that you attached an emotion to it. And so how this whole thing works is I, as a practitioner, ask you for permission to tap into your subconscious mind. Now, I know it sounds a little woo-woo, and you're like, wait a minute, how are you going to tap into my subconscious mind? Well, I am a believer that we are all one. We all come from the same divine source. You can call it God. That's what I was brought up to call it. You could call it source, the divine universe. You could call it Yoda. Because it is all of existence, everything that was started from the beginning to the end. And we're all like a piece of that. So when we die, we return to that. And when we're here, we're a piece of it. So when we're here, we connect with other pieces because we're all from the same thing, regardless of the color of our skin, regardless of where we grew up, regardless of our religious background. If you cut us down the middle, we'll all have the same DNA and atomic little things. Like, we're exactly the same. We have brains, we have all nervous systems. We're exactly the same. So I can easily tap into your subconscious mind, and you can easily tap into mine. Dr. Bradley Nelson says it's nice to get permission. So the session starts with like, you get permission and you say yes. And then I use muscle testing to make sure that I'm actually connected. So if you're watching on YouTube, then you could see that my fingers are creating two little rings. So this would be a yes and this would be a no. So when I pull and it's a no, then I'm not connected. Your subconscious mind knows when you're talking about yourself, and your subconscious mind knows when you're talking about Lauren. And so one of the other things that he says is that you should always say a prayer, because he's very, I don't say he's religious, but he does believe in God, source, the divine. And so he says, ask God, source, the divine, your highest good, your angels, your ancestors to guide you into finding what is the most thing that is blocking you. So normally my clients come to me with like, oh, I'm having anxiety, or oh, I've been having a headache, or oh, I've been grinding my teeth and I don't know what's going on. So I'll give you a few examples. So I had a woman that was having a lot of anxiety, talking at like a meeting at work. She's like, I don't know, but like every single time they ask me to participate in a meeting or to give a speech or to give, something, like I get crazy anxiety. And so I usually like when a client comes with a specific thing, because then we could just ask spirit, the divine, like whatever is it that's blocking her, please guide me to fighting it. And then because Dr. Bradley Nelson's been doing this for years, he created a chart. And when I first started doing emotion code, we had like a paper chart that we would use. But now, thanks to technology, we have a app that I use, and the chart is way more expansive than it was when I first started. So I do my calls via Zoom, so that you could see the chart too, because I feel like it helps the subconscious mind guide me to the correct place. You don't have to do it. We could do it over the phone without being seen. We could also do it via email, but I think a lot of people do love being able to see the chart, see me, and have that connection. And I think I even have a deeper connection with the soul when I am seeing them face to face. So we go through the chart, and what happens is that I divide it. So let's say you're 40 years old. I divide that your half age is 20. And then I just start asking your subconscious mind yes or no questions. Like, do you have a block? Do you have a misalignment? Do you have an associated imbalance that is causing you to have this anxiety? And then I'll say yes or no, yes or no. And then I'll say, is it in the left side or the right side of the chart? Is it on the odd side or the even side of the chart? And so we start going down and just questioning yes or no answers until we get to the source. So for this woman, and also I ask, is it your own? Because there's three different ways that you can store this negative emotion. It could be your own, so something happened to you directly. It could be absorbed, meaning, let's say your best friend got a divorce and you were there and you were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that he cheated on you. You absorbed some of her pain because you're there. Or it's inherited, meaning like something happened to your mom while you were in her belly, or something happened to your grandmother while your mom was in her belly. And everybody knows that like when you're 3 months old or something like that, you're already producing eggs. So we've always been in grandma's belly,
Yeah.
and the trauma gets passed down.
Yeah.
So it's inherited, and it could be from either your mother's side or your father's side. So those are the three ways, it's yours, absorbed, or inherited. So here I am, I ask, is it yours? Is it absorbed? It's yours? Okay. What age did you do it? Was it before the age of 20, after the age of 20? And so I'm just going down, asking questions. So for this woman at the age of 15, she trapped the negative emotion of humiliation. And this woman was 60 years old, actually. And she was like, I can't remember 15. So what happens is in that moment, when I'm asking your subconscious mind, do you remember? Just think of the back of the subconscious mind as like a filing cabinet. And the subconscious mind is trying really hard to find that file, to pull it forward and bring it to your conscious mind. Now, most people either don't remember, or they'll remember after our session is over. So for me, when I was being taught how to be a practitioner, my practitioner told me, if at that point you feel anything in your body, because obviously I'm connected to you subconsciously, just say it out loud, because it may mean something to them, and it's part of that memory. So in that time, I was getting tingling sensation on my legs. And I said, I don't know if this means anything to you, but my legs are really tingling. And she goes, oh, now I remember. When she was 15, she was on the swimming team and she had fat legs. And every single time she took off her towel, the other girls on the swimming team would point and humiliate her. And so that was the root cause of her having anxiety and being the center of attention at every meeting. So, of course, we used the magnets, we released it. And she called me the next day and said, I can't even tell you how light and free I feel. I had another woman send me her husband saying that he is grinding his teeth every night. I mean, it's so loud, it keeps me awake. Please, please figure out why he's grinding his teeth. So we get on a call. We did 3 sessions because sometimes it takes more than one session to figure out the root cause. And especially if someone's not really open to the healing modality, it takes me a while to get them to like really like buy into it. So for him, it was the second session before we figured out why he was grinding his teeth. Well, first of all, he was holding a lot of emotions in his teeth. Emotions like, what were they? Regret and I can't remember exactly, but it all had to do with the fact that his father committed suicide at the age of 21. And so he wasn't allowed to speak about it. He wasn't allowed to talk about it. He wasn't allowed to, express his emotions around his dad committing suicide. And so he stored a lot of that in his teeth, all of these negative emotions. I think we released like 15 negative emotions surrounding his dad. And his wife called me the next day and said, you're not going to believe it. He stopped grinding his teeth. And I'm like, I mean, sometimes I'm even like astounded at how this healing modality works. And I was just like, wow, that's incredible. And then I had another woman because I could also do pets. And so I had a woman who came to me and she's like, my dog is throwing up every single morning. I don't know what's wrong. Like I give her water and she throws up. And so I said, okay, well, let's do an emotion body code session on your dog. And the dog only has to either be next to you, close to you, in proximity of you. And then I tapped into the subconscious mind of the dog and I'm going through the chart and it says there's a toxin and then it says it's a water toxin. And then I don't know why, but sometimes I even get like what I call downloads where I'm like, say this out loud. And so in that moment, I'm like, I don't know why, but I have to say this out loud. Is the dog bowl next to an electrical outlet? And she was like, how did you know that? And she turns the Zoom video around and she shows me where the dog water bowl is. And it's next to an electrical outlet. But on the electrical outlet was something plugged in. And I said, what's that? And she's like, oh, it checks for CO2 in the room. And I said, just move the water away from that electrical outlet and that CO2 thing because for whatever reason, it's causing a water toxicity. And so she's like, okay, I will. And 2 days later, she goes, my dog hasn't thrown up in 2 days. Like he stopped throwing up. And I was like, I don't know. She's like, that's incredible. I was like, it's so hard for me to explain how it works or why it works. It's like this beautiful modality that it's just like I have story after story. If you follow me on YouTube, I have an entire playlist of emotion and body code. I'm also on TikTok. I share these stories because people are like, there's no way that this works. And even I have sometimes doubted that this works. And yet every single time I get the most incredible results. Like I had another woman who she said she had lockjaw, TMJ, and she's like, it's always painful. I don't know why, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going through her chart. I'm talking to her subconscious mind, yes or no. When did you store this? What? And it said like she had like too much caffeine. Stop drinking caffeine. And she's like, but I love my coffee. And I'm like, just try it for a week. Just try it for a week and see what happens. And she's like, you're not going to believe this, but I don't have any more lockjaw. And I was like, I don't know how it works, but it works. And so I have been doing this healing modality for over 2 years. There is another one that they just opened up, which is called Belief Code, and I'm going to start working on that. But just recently, I watched the movie Inside Out 2. If you haven't seen it, I highly,
I was gonna
highly
say I can't
recommend.
wait. I was gonna say I cannot wait to watch that.
I highly recommend to watch it because it is literally a beautiful explanation on how emotion, body, and belief code work, and how our brain creates these beliefs, these ideologies, these records in the subconscious mind. And when we play them, we create our reality. And the best thing about our brain that I've learned is that it's definitely a supercomputer. It's the most powerful tool you have in your life. And like a computer, it can be programmed. So if you were downloading the wrong program, and let's just say you had a great childhood, but then you were in an abusive relationship. Let's just say you were in a toxic friendship. Let's just say you were in a toxic work environment. You can, just like how they could program you to believe that you are fat, you are ugly, you are not enough, no one's ever going to be with you. Because I've been with a lot of toxic men, narcissistic men, and they can make you really believe that you are nothing.
Yeah.
Just like they can make you believe that you are nothing, you can actually make yourself believe that you are something. And we all are something so important, so divine, so beautiful, so magical. And we have the power to truly change our lives. Yes, there is things in your subconscious mind that need healing, that need to be released because they are trapped in your body, in your subconscious mind. And if you trap these negative emotions and these negative experiences and these negative words, then they can cause havoc in your body. They could even cause dis-ease. So I highly recommend that you give it a go. Like, I mean, like I said earlier, I tried everything under the sun, from Reiki to somatic healing to, I mean, all these different types of meditations. And emotion and body code have been a game changer for me and for my clients. I have repeating clients that come to me all the time. You could do one session, you could do 3, 6, and 9. I like Tesla, so I use the 3, 6, 9 method. Um, and yeah, and the best part is that if I give everyone, because people are skeptic, I get it. I was skeptic in the beginning too. I didn't believe in the woo woo too much. I give everyone their first 15 minutes for free. So if you go to my link in bio, you just click on the 15-minute discovery call, and you could, I'm also a life coach and spiritual mentor. So you have to tell me, like, this is for emotion and body code. I would like to test it out. But yes, I do the first 15 minutes for free. And then if you love it, then you can buy a session or a package. I'm always running specials. If this episode comes out in the summer of 2024, I have a 15% off package special and 15% off your first session. So, and usually they're about 30 minutes long. I never just stick to the 30 minutes. What I do is I allow the subconscious mind to tell me how much more to go. Sometimes the subconscious, so again, the subconscious mind is there to protect you and to help you. And so sometimes it takes a lot more sessions to let go of deep, deep trauma, painful trauma, because it's really trying to protect you. So sometimes the subconscious mind will say, that's enough. I've let go of enough that feels safe to me, and the rest I'm going to keep. So in those moments, I always ask, are you done? You're done. Okay, I get it. I'm never going to push. Because I I want the client to feel safe, to be able to let go of these negative emotions. And then afterwards, I always tell everybody it's within a 72-hour period. That you will either take a really long nap. There's one of two ways. You either take a really, really long nap because you're processing all of this. And if you don't know, you process a lot of your deep trauma through dreams because you're subconsciously sleeping, and you could do it in your dreams and not awake because it's too painful. Or then you are like a sponge. So, like when I'm removing everything, I'm like squeezing you, and these negative emotions that are being released are coming to the surface. So you'll have a very good cry. You'll feel all the emotions that we released that day and just allow yourself to process. I tell my clients, just say, thank you for protecting me. I release you now for my highest good and the highest good of all. And then just allow yourself to truly process those emotions. So yes, It's pretty crazy the way it works. Some people have the most vivid dreams. I just want to give you one more example. I had this woman who was not only on my podcast, but also did a couple sessions with me afterwards. And she was molested by her uncle. She was 60 years old, but she was molested by her uncle when she was 9 or 10. And every adult she tried to tell would say, "How dare you talk about your uncle that way? How dare you speak of your family that way?" Like, because he was a police officer and a soccer coach, he was held in high regard in the community. And so she felt like she couldn't talk to anyone about this. And so when we did an emotion code session, we released a lot of negative trapped emotions that were a lot held in her uterus. And that night, she said that she had the most vivid dream where she was sitting on this park bench. And she said, all the people, because now she's 60, so all the adults that didn't believe her and didn't help her are all gone. And so she said, in that dream, every single person came to her and said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. I'm so sorry." And she said she couldn't even talk, like in the dream, like she couldn't rebuttal, she couldn't argue with them. They just came and said, "I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you." And she said she woke up in a cold sweat and she said, "Paola, I have never felt lighter in my life." And I was like, wow, that was incredible. Like, can I please tell your story? And she's like, absolutely. She's like, "You've changed my life." And I'm like, oh, that's incredible. It gives me goosebumps just even
I would say,
thinking
yeah,
about.
I've been having goosebumps our whole time that you've been talking because everything resonates. It seems like we do very similar work. It's just, I don't do the emotional body code, but I do it with the shamanic tools, which is kind of very similar with like generational trauma and, like doing the chamber of contracts and all that stuff through like shamanic tools. So
Mm-hmm.
it's actually very interesting because, to be honest, if you when I ask my clients a certain question, I always ask them, what emotion is attached to this? Like, why do
Yeah.
you feel shameful? Because like shame is just like that virus that just gets attached to everything. Like it just
Yeah.
attaches itself to everything, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I was gonna say thank you. I was gonna say thank you so much for your explanation. I'm gonna say like I didn't even have to transition you to anything. Every question I wanted to ask you, it was like I was like, oh, you must already know. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah. Well,
you are,
I've done this interview multiple times, so I know
yeah,
like what to say and how to transition because it really is just so incredible my journey and how everything, like I said earlier, when the student is ready, the teachers will appear. And
yeah,
so I was open to every healing modality. I broke all the ideologies that I was raised with because as a Catholic, as a Christian, obviously you're never supposed to see a shaman. You're never supposed to do psychedelics. You're never supposed to do this. You can't do
yeah,
that. You can't talk to psychics. You can't, and I was like, that. None. I did the Lord's Prayer. Now, I'm not saying that I do not believe in God. I don't believe in the religious God.
yeah,
I don't believe that God hates us and is punishing us and is waiting for us to sin so that he can destroy our lives. That is not the God that I believe in. Now, another thing that I didn't touch on, but I do talk a lot about it in my social media, is that when my father passed away, I did a huge deep dive into near death experiences, and I have listened to over 1,000 plus near death experience. I almost listen to one every day because I follow so many YouTube channels. And I highly recommend anyone who is in this like feeling lost and feeling unloved and feeling just like what is their purpose, because listening to near death experiences and people who've actually crossed over and met the divine, met God, met Jesus, even the people who are atheists. Like I had one episode where this girl, she was an atheist, never grew up with religion at all. Like her parents were not religious, they were very like intellects and were into like quantum physics and mathematician and all this stuff. So when she tried to commit suicide, when she crossed over, what came to her was like a triangle or a square. And this triangle or square is talking to her. And she's like, "What are you? Are you what people call God?" And she was like, and the square was like, "I'm whatever makes you feel loved. And I know you love math. So that's why I showed up as this." And it's just like, that's
interesting.
what we don't understand as human beings, is this unconditional love from the divine. Here as humans, we have conditional love. I mean, even religious people have conditional love. What? You're not a Catholic? You're out of here. What? You're not a Christian? You're out of here. What? You're gay? You're out of here. Like that is not what the divine is about. The divine is unconditional love. And as humans, we can't comprehend that because we have conditions to our love. And we have pain and we have suffering. And I do believe that there is a hell, but I don't think it's because you create sins. It's our choices that create our own hell on earth, which is what I believe. So I highly recommend people to do their own research.
Yeah, I was gonna say we definitely are very aligned, and that's literally, I used to call myself a Catholic witch, but then I realized because I, had a toxic, past in, being like, you have to do it this way after that. I'm like, I'm not doing it that way. Like, I don't like to listen to authorities. I don't like to, I know I have to abide by laws, but like in the realm of like, you're not going to tell me what to do kind of thing. And I've always been that very rebellious person, the outsider, never really fit in, but then I realized there's so much more to life than, like you said, earlier, than what you believe. And this is not supposed to be life. So it's like you can create your life. And a lot of people are in that victim mentality of like, poor me, all that stuff. And you have to be there to survive. But like once you survive, just like me, I had a near-death experience as well. And I always believed that I had a very gift ever since I remember things that happened when I was 1 year old. I remember things that happened when I was 2 years old. I remember those very vivid, memories that have stuck in my body my entire
Mhm.
life. So it's like, I do just accept the fact that I have this badge of like multifaceted trauma, and this is what I'm supposed to help people with. But I also know this lifetime I'm supposed to learn about unconditional love, because
Yeah.
for now I feel like I have more unconditional love, like I'm learning it. Obviously it comes with boundaries, but boundaries aren't really conditions. It's more of like I have to just make the best decision for myself. And I feel like having that conversation with my own partner, it's like, if you do this, I get to do this for myself because I know that I don't deserve that. Right. So it's
Mhm.
like that switch of like conditions versus is it a condition or is it just a boundary? Because I didn't even know what a boundary was 10 years ago when somebody said boundaries. And I was like, what is that? I didn't know what that was. Like nobody taught me that. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can make decisions for myself. Like somebody else doesn't have to make them for me. I'm like, oh, okay. I think I like this part. Like, I think I
Yeah.
like that I can choose what I want to do with my own life, and not have
Yes.
to dictate it. Yeah. So yeah. Awesome.
Yes, that's what my whole thing is, being fearless to question why you believe what you believe.
Right.
And if you start to question why you believe what you believe, and you start to do your own research and do what things that feel good to you and your soul, like some things feel really good to me and some things don't. And so I don't go down that path, like that doesn't feel good to me. I don't like that. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this because this feels good to me. This makes my soul sing. This brings my light, it turns my light on, everything should feel good in this world. Like we are meant to create heaven on earth. We could either have the option of creating heaven on earth or hell on earth.
Right.
And it's our choices. It's our daily routine. It's our daily thoughts. Because the mind, like I said, is the most powerful tool you have. And in your mind, if you think about it, if you close your eyes and think of the most horrific things, your body has a visceral reaction to it.
Right.
If you think of the most positive things, your body has a visceral reaction to it. And so you could literally create heaven on earth and feel love, joy, happiness, gratitude every single day. Or you can focus on everything that is going wrong in your life. And like you said, be victim mentality and live in that victim story and then wonder why your life looks the way it did. And that was me. For 20 years of my life, I created a prison of my own doing. Even though my mom stopped beating me up and hurting me at the age of 17, I physically and emotionally abused myself for 20 years. For 20 years, I abused myself physically because I drank myself. I did drugs. I slept with all the wrong people. I abused myself physically and emotionally for 20 years. And I was blaming and playing the shame game. And then I realized, wait a minute. I could change my life. I have the key to this prison that I created. I could literally just unlock, get the fuck out, change my thoughts, change the way I view things, do things that I love, not because the church told me, not because my mom told me, not because my siblings told me. I could do whatever I want. And so now I teach women to fearlessly love themselves, choose themselves, be their own advocate, be their own healer, do the things that make them feel good, make their soul sing, and it's different for everyone. Like some people love to sing in the kitchen. Some people love to snowboard. Some people love to do art. Some people like crafts. But we have created so many different rules because of society, because of church, because of religion, because of people. We've created all these rules. And so we're like, oh, we can't sing. We can't laugh too hard. We can't wear this shirt or these shorts. We can't show too much skin. We can't make a sexual joke. We can't cuss. We can't do this. We can't do that. And then we create all these rules, and then we're confined into this little box, and we're so sad, and we're so depressed, and we're so angry, and we're so bitter, and we created our own hell on earth, our own prison. And it's like, girls, ladies, wake up. We have the key. We literally have the key. And, even though I don't believe in religion, I do believe that the Bible has a lot of beautiful keynotes in it. And one of the things says, the kingdom lies within you. And so we've been, society has told us, no, you need that new purse, you need that car, you need that house, you need that husband, you need a child, you need that college education. And so then we as idiots are running around trying to get all these things,
Yeah.
and then we're like, okay, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. I'm still fucking unhappy.
Yeah.
I'm still depressed. And, I have a podcast of my own. Lauren was a guest on it. It's called Journey of a Fearless Female. I have over 250 episodes. And what I have learned is that a lot of women have done the checklist. They went to college. They got the husband. They got the baby. They got the corporate job. They lost the weight. They've been on all the trips. And yet they are still unhappy, because they're following the old school ideology that if you do A, B, C, and D, you're going to be happy.
Yeah.
And they did A, B, C, and D, and they're like, what the fuck? I'm not happy. I'm
That's
not happy.
like I did that all, check all the boxes. I did all of that. I felt like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm like, I've made six figures. I made seven figures. I had this, I had money, I had everything. And it's just like, I still was so fucking unhappy. And I'm like, so
Yeah.
if I don't have any of that, I wonder if I'm actually going to be happy. I mean, granted, it does hurt to clear out all of that shit and to lose all of that stuff, but then replacing it now, like it's been probably 4 years, 5 years of replacing everything healthy, doing things the healthy way versus the toxic, because it's very easy to tomorrow if I want to wake up and I just want to go back to my old ways, I can do that too. But
Yeah.
it's like a conscious effort every single day. And I've actually said this on another podcast, even to my client a couple weeks ago. She said, I thought when I started healing it would be easy. And I was like, healing, there is no easy part of healing. Any minute, moment, an hour. I was like, you have to chase these moments because
Mhm.
they're not going to come often. So enjoy it, and that's what I always have to remind myself is I have to enjoy the moments, because I can't think about
Mhm.
tomorrow. I can't think about 4 hours. I mean, unless I'm scheduling something, right? But like, I
Yeah.
need to like,
Yeah.
for me, it was all like, because of all of that trauma that I've healed and because of all of the things that I've been through, very similar to you, that I have to make sure I live in the moment, because that moment is going to pass and there's something else going to happen. And I got to focus on that, or I have to do that, especially being a single mom and, having a business and doing my own healing. And it's like making sure I'm there for myself because nobody else is going to be, all that stuff. So it's like, when people talk about that, I'm like, no, the trauma is not your responsibility, but the healing part is 100% your responsibility. And you can't pass that on to somebody else because they're not going to heal
No.
you.
Yeah. And there is no easy fix. I had a client once tell me, so how long will I have to work on my mindset? I was like, every day.
Yes, every day.
Every day for the rest of your life.
Right.
Because if you're not the captain of your ship is going to crash right into the rocks. Because the
Right.
moment you let go of that wheel, it's just going to detour right back into the record that you're playing all the time. You're going to start. And I have been on my healing journey, like I said, since 2006. I'm not going to lie. Yesterday, I was in a deep depression because somebody triggered me and I was deep in a depression. I couldn't even get out of bed And I have been doing not only the work for myself and for my clients, I have all these healing modalities. Like I too, like when I tell people how important it is to have a coach, like I have a coach. I had to reach out to my coach and say, hey, girl, I am going through it. I need you right now. And thank God she was like, okay, I have a opening for you tomorrow. And, can you meet me tomorrow? And like to be able to have that safe space. I mean, I love my coach, to be able to have that safe space with her and to be able to express. And she's like, okay, this is your wounded child talking. This is your deep trauma. This is your mother wound. Do you see where this is coming? Like, but when you're in that dark pit, you can't see the light. You need
Mhm.
someone outside of you who's safe and who is loving and kind and has done the work themselves and is on the same path as you to show you the light. And that's what my coach did for me. And that's why I not only coach other women, I want to be the light for them when they're in the darkness, but that's why I have a coach of myself, because I truly believe that we can help each other. But yes,
Yeah.
the responsibility is definitely on you. I could have laid in that bed and not called anyone and just played the victim. But I know that if I had laid in that bed even one more hour, I would have just gone, like I said, crashed right into the rocks, and you have to be the captain of your ship. You have to be the person that's the architect of your destiny. And in order for you to do that, you have to do the work every single day. And on the days that you are so weak and you are in a dark night of the soul, those are the days that you need to reach out and ask for help. And I'm telling you, there are so many of us that are waking up and so many of us that are doing the light work to be able to come and guide you out of that dark pit. Like, I mean, we can do this, ladies. We can do this. We can heal and we can be better people and create a different generation of women in this world for us.
Yeah, I love that. So to say, before we wrap up, I do want to say thank you for sharing your vulnerable moment with us, because I actually also had a very a difficult, I should say, difficult or challenging day yesterday myself, that I also had to reach out to my own mentor as well. I have a couple mentors, but one specifically, the one that I went through the shamanic journey with, about there's something that I was dealing with, through my own journey of going through the shamanic journey. And I said, like, is this normal? Am I supposed to feel this way? Because I feel like just giving up. And it was like that moment that she was like, giving up. What do you mean? And I was like, I just feel like I can't do this anymore. It's just too difficult. And then that's when she was like, that is your inner child talking. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like redirecting that, like you said, redirecting that, wanting to give up. And I'm like, I just can't do it. And then it's like, but you can. And it was like that push that I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I see it. And then today I feel so much better. But it's like, I remember that little girl in that corner in that closet of just, when I was a child, when I was a teenager, when I felt like, during my 3 different times of trying to unalign myself, that just didn't work. It was like,
Yeah.
this is not your time. This is not okay. You're not doing this. And I'm like, well, that's not working either. So I got to figure something else out, and I joke about it now, but no, it's not funny. I just take humor. Like, humor is like something that
Me
I feel
too.
like it's very healing for me. So like, I know that if you're really going through something that's really dark, it's not funny at the time, but I had turned into humor because it's healing for me. And I also get on my own nerves to the point that I'm like, I am so sick of myself. Like, I'm just so sick of this that I'm like, we got to do something. Talking to myself, we got to do something different today, or in the next 5 minutes, or we're just going to get on each other. Like, I'm going to get on my
Yeah.
nerves. And those people, when I say that, they really, really resonate with that, because at the same time, it's like, you can say it's somebody else's fault, which it could be. Somebody else could do something to you, but at the end of the day, it's also yours. You
Yes.
still have that 50%, responsibility, that you allowed yourself to be in that situation, regardless if you had the awareness or not. So
Yeah,
thank you.
you allowed yourself to react in a way. You allowed yourself to twist someone's words to hurt you. You allowed them to hurt your light and to
Right.
dim it. So
Right.
it's a lot of work. When I tell people like the healing journey, it's not like a one and done. This is why, like, when my doctor was trying to give me, antidepressants, there isn't a pill that's going to take this away. I'm sorry, but there isn't a pill that's going to take it away. There's not a drink that you're going to drink that's going to make this pain go away. You're
Right.
just numbing yourself.
Right.
There's not enough food you can eat. There's not enough purses you can buy. There's not enough money you can have in your bank account. You are just numbing yourself. You
Right.
have to do the work, and it's not easy. It's a roller coaster of emotions, and it takes a strong human being to do it. And guess what? You are just as fucking strong as me and Lauren. You could
Yes.
do this work. And when on the days that you're not strong, reach out to someone who's already on shore. So if you're drowning, say, hey, I need your help. And they
Yeah.
could pull you right back to shore. Like, this is what the human experience is supposed to be about. We are supposed to help each other in this beautiful journey called life. This is Earth School, and we're here to learn lessons. And sometimes the lessons appear and appear and appear until you learn it and you don't react to it, and it doesn't trigger you so much that you're laying in bed for 12 hours crying your eyes out. And as you're doing the healing journey, like if, for example, what happened to me, if it would have happened to me in 2006, I would have been in bed for 3 months. But
Right.
now that I've been doing the work and like I have resources and people and amazing coaches, it took me 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're not going to be fully healed, but you're going to be a better version than you were years ago when you didn't even begin your healing journey.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and everything, all of the little nuggets you dropped today. I'm so excited for everybody to hear this episode. So, where can people find you? And if you have one more like little nugget of wisdom that you can leave with us today.
Well, you can find me on fearlessfemale.com. I'm always on TikTok, so at Paola.Rosser, and everywhere else. As long as you type in Fearless Female, you will find me hopefully at the very top if my SEO is working. But my nugget of wisdom is that you have the power to change the program that is running your brain today. And when you become aware of what that program is, because a lot of people try to tell me, I'm actually don't do negative self-talk. And then within the next 15 minutes, they're like, and I hate how I look in these jeans. And I just wish that you know what I mean? If
Yeah.
you
No,
start to be,
yeah.
yeah, like, and there's actually a really cool app. I forgot what the name of it is, but there's an app where it records every 15 seconds what you're talking about. So it records your conversations, it records your self-talk. So if you could download that app and then re-listen to everything you're saying out loud or to a person at the end of the night, you can actually start to become aware of the negative self-talk that you have, because what you think, what you speak is creating your reality. And the moment you become aware of the program that is running you is the moment that you could change the program, change your reality, and change your life.
I love that. So thank you so much for joining us on today's episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, you leave a review, and you can share with anybody that you feel that will gain knowledge from listening to today's episode. And make sure you check out the description box. Paula's links will all be there. So stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you are a current or inspiring to be fempreneur, suffering from the fear of being seen and or feel very triggered when you're building your business, reach out to me at The Mermaid Light about my Rich and Resilient Biz Baddies. This is a collective text message Voxer support group designed to help you heal your triggers and turn imposter syndrome into bad bitch energy. If you resonate with our conversations and insight, don't forget to subscribe, rate the show, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. So please make sure you stay connected with us on social media. Keep manifesting greatness in your life. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.